Okay, class, welcome to another guest we have in the Being a Fan of Disney class and podcast. This time we have Michael Ruffin, who's going to talk to us. He's going to talk to us about his fandom. He's going to talk to us about his projects and his podcast that he has, The Moving Platform. And then we're also going to talk about this idea of fan theory making, how we've talked about fan-made content, but kind of what is it about Disney and about the parks and the projects that really want to get people into different theories and kind of playing around almost like fantasy Imagineer, armchair Imagineer, if you will. So without further ado, I will introduce Michael. Thank you for being here. And if you could start out, tell us how you got into Disney, how you were introduced, and kind of take us up through where you are now.
Oh, well, first, thank you for having me. Hello, class. I wish that there had been a class like this when I was in college. Maybe I would have finished college. Who knows? So I majored in not going to class, and I don't advise that you do that. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
As for, where it started, man, if there is ever scientific proof of the expected mothers play music through headphones, over the womb, that the child will kind of, through osmosis absorb that vibe and that genre, and that will become kind of part of their personality. I am living proof of this, because my mom would listen to Disney soundtracks, the Muppets, all these different things. And I find myself loving all of these things. So I have been a Disney kid since birth. My mom's got pictures of me as a couple months old, and I'm wearing something Disney. So my, kind of grew up with that with the movies. First trip was in 1985, 86. I think it was 86. I was 3. I don't remember much about that one. I remember things about this trip when I was 6. And I remember very vividly, I remember riding 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. That was one of my favorite rides. And then I remember going back later in the early 90s and it was not there anymore. And this is before the internet. When you found out, oh, your favorite ride is closing, you've got 2 months to go ride it. We went back a few years later and my ride it's there, but the submarines are in the water, but it's not open.
Yeah.
So, so I grew up in a Disney household. I watched the movies. I played with the toys. I grew up in the 80s, which was a popular time for the animatronic, like robotic toy, like Teddy Ruxpin. I was terrified of Teddy Ruxpin. So I had and still have, and he still works too. I had the talking Mickey and Goofy.
Okay.
That you could put all the books and tapes and everything. I still have them. I have all the costumes. They still work. I can't bring myself to put them on eBay. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I do look to see what they sell for, but I just can't bring myself to do it.
So. Thanks for that. And first, those Mickey and Minnie, like animatronic Teddy Ruxpin type things, and some listeners and students may not know what those are, how popular those are, although I think Teddy Ruxpin is, they have kind of rebooted it now, but extremely popular toys.
Oh yeah.
And so to still have those, that is awesome. That's great to be able to hold on to that. And it kind of gets to what we were talking about before we started recording with collecting and everything. And so kudos to you. That's awesome.
Those things in the 80s, those things were big, man. They were huge. Yeah. Imagine in 1988, you could have a toy that you could put a book in or a tape in the back of it, and it would talk and it would read a story to you that you could read along. It was crazy.
Yeah. And now, a lot of people think, what are tapes? We don't know what are CDs.
What's a cassette tape, Grandpa? Yeah.
But so it's a fascinating story of growing up, and it's one that kind of goes through everyone's narrative of just, how they were introduced. It's usually through family members, and it's usually because of kind of those memories that we have. That's the reason we hold on to being a fan of Disney. But you are unique in that you live close to Walt Disney
Yes.
World. So can you talk to us about kind of that process? Why did you decide to move close to Walt Disney World? And what was the process of doing it once you got there?
Well, actually, this is the second time
Okay.
that I've lived here. Back in 2002, I did, which is what is hopefully a program that will come back soon. Due to COVID, they sent them all home, and hopefully they're going to be back soon because it really adds a lot to the parks.
Mm-hmm.
But in 2002, I did the Walt Disney World College Program, which essentially, speaking directly to your students, you blow off a semester of college, you come work at Disney World. And sometimes your college will give you a credit for it. It's great. No, I know I did that. So of course I lived here for that. I started in Epcot, at attractions at Test Track. So I worked over there. Mission Space was a mountain of dirt. Horizons had just closed. So it was kind of like a sensitive time to be an Epcot fan. But from there, I kind of moved all over. I knew I wanted to come back because I love living as close as I do to the parks. I live 20 minutes away from the TCC, or the Ticket and Transportation Center, Magic Kingdom parking. Mm-hmm. On a clear night, I can actually go to the highest hill in our neighborhood and I can see fireworks when they're having them. So I knew I wanted to live close. So back in 2016, just kind of went through some life changes. Unfortunately, I got divorced, and I kind of was like looking like, what's that next step? So I kind of started just kind of doing some soul searching, and I had my best friend of 30 plus years lived here, and he happened to work for a church. And something I gotten into in recent years was I gotten back into playing worship music because I'm a musician. And he was like, hey man, if you ever want to be a worship leader, you ever want to join a worship team, I got, you got a place right here. You got a great church right here. We're 40 minutes from Disney, come on down. And honestly, I had moved back home to my parents for about 6 months while trying to figure things out. And I on Christmas Eve morning or Christmas morning, I put a piece of paper in a Christmas card, and it said February 20th, 2017. And my parents were like, what is this? And I'm like, that's the day that I'm going to pack all of my earthly possessions into my car, and I'm moving to Orlando. Very cool. So I just crossed the 4-year mark. Very cool. Living down here, and I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Very cool. And you do you do a lot of stuff with music. I've seen on social media your posts about playing gigs and everything around the local area. And you also do something in the parks. You started going in the parks like other people we've had talk in the class, and you started to make videos and vlogs and everything. Where did you get the idea to do that?
Well, back in probably about 2012, 2013, some friends and I started a Disney podcast called the Mouska Beers. Essentially, we would drink craft beer and we would talk Disney. And I believe that show is still on iTunes if you want to check it. It's okay. I highly recommend you check it out. It's very fun. So we didn't know anything about it. We were just like, yeah, let's turn on. I had a Yeti Blue microphone. I just put it in the middle of the table, hook it up to a laptop, and hit record and go. Didn't do any editing. We just kind of talked. So that kind of got me into the Disney creation and creative vibe, because I'm a creative person, whether it be music or anything else. If I'm not creating, I'm not living. And that's just how I am. So when I moved down here, I knew, I was like, I'm living 20 minutes, from Disney. The question is not if I do something, it's how long does it take me to start? And so I knew I wanted to do something, and people kept telling me YouTube. And I had never really listened to or watched a lot of Disney vloggers on YouTube. So I didn't really know anything about it. And I was like, oh, so people watch these videos of people going around the parks. So I kind of jumped in. And of course, if you type in Disney vlog into YouTube, the first thing you're going to find is the Tim Tracker. So, I watched a few. It's like, this is cool. You're just essentially like, I shoot everything right here. So it's like, hey, we're in Magic Kingdom. So I'm just going to shoot like this right here. I'll, walk around and show things. Mostly it's just me, doing this right here, and just taking you through my day. And that's what I wanted it to be from the start. And originally it was going to be a podcast. I didn't have a name for it yet. I think at one point, I had decided on the Utilidor Radio Show.
Okay.
I think was going to be the name of it. I was like, that's kind of cool, and then like I said, people kept telling me YouTube, and I'm like, guys, I come from the world of radio. Like, I'm not camera pretty. Like, I'm not a good looking guy on camera, So, I didn't want to do YouTube. And then I said, okay, we'll go and we'll try this thing. So unnamed at the time, there was no name for anything. I went and did my very first video was Flower and Garden Festival 2017.
Okay.
So I went and did Flower and Garden, and I had this terrible, I advise you not to go to the YouTube and watch that video because it has this terrible underscoring. It's awful. And so I did that and I was like, that was fun. That was really fun. Let's do YouTube. Let's do it. Let's do YouTube. That was really fun. I enjoyed that. And then a friend of mine gave me the name. She was like, why don't you call it the Moving Platform? And I'm like, that's kind of a silly name, for a Disney thing. And she's like, well, are you going to do Universal, SeaWorld? I'm like, yeah. I said, I plan to do that. So she's like, well, then don't put Disney in the name. And I was like, okay, good point. Like, I didn't want to make Mike's Disney blog or Mike's Disney Adventures. I didn't want to do that. And she said the Moving Platform. And I was like, why? And she was like, because it's a throwback to People Mover, which is a Tomorrowland attraction. For those of you that don't know, it's a Tomorrowland attraction, but also because film is a moving platform of media. Mm-hmm. As soon as she said that, I was like, okay, I can't not call it that. So that was the name, and that's where it came from. And from that point, we've just kind of been doing, just doing the thing. I probably should set a schedule like, oh, I'm going to do a video a week or a video every 2 weeks. I kind of just do it. It's just like a hobby. I've never been in the game of trying to make this the thing that I make a living from. That'd be awesome, but it's not something I really see, but yeah, that was it. I just started filming and hope people watched.
Yeah, that's cool. And I'm glad you talked about where you got the name, the Moving Platform, because that's what I was going to ask next, because I have listened to one of the episodes that you talked about that. And like the, flashback to the People Mover, which is, I think it's my favorite attraction, just to go and sit on and be able to ride around. And the interesting thing is, I really, really like Tomorrowland, but Tomorrowland is not my favorite themed land in the Magic Kingdom. But that attraction, just being able to sit and kind of, because it takes 10 or 12 minutes to get around, it's very relaxing. And it's just this really neat atmosphere that's really neat.
And keeping a finger on the pulse of everything happening here, obviously, People Mover is reopening on, I think it's April the 10th.
Yeah.
First time since the reopen. So People Mover's back just in time for Dapper Day, which is kind of a tradition thing for me. And so super excited to see it finally open again.
Well, and since you mentioned it, because we've spoke to someone about cosplaying and Disney bounding, and we talked about Dapper Day, but you are a pretty big participant in Dapper Day. You like doing it every year. So can you tell us what Dapper Day is?
Dapper Day is a social event. I say that because I've had people come to the parks on Dapper Day, and I'm like, hey, it's Dapper Day, you should participate. And they were like, what is it? I'm like, oh, you just dress up nice and go to the parks, it's cool, So they go and they get their shirt and tie, or the girls go and get their dresses, and then they come and they're like, everybody's just kind of standing around, like, why isn't anybody writing anything? And I'm like, Dapper Day is what you want it to be. And if Dapper Day for you is to put on your dapper, your dapper outfits, your suits, your dresses, whatever it may be. If that means you get dressed up and you go and you just hang out on the hub grass all day long and take photos and just hang out with your friends and see people, awesome. That's what it is for me. I maybe ride one, maybe two things on Dapper Day, maybe, and most of the time those People Mover and Haunted Mansion, and that's it. I'm not going to go ride Big Thunder Mountain in a suit. I'm not doing it. I mean, I could, but I'm not gonna. But if you want to if Dapper Day for you is to put on a shirt and tie and go and ride every single attraction in Magic Kingdom, do it. That's it. Dapper Day, it is what you want it to be, but essentially at its core, it's you just dress up nice, and for the first time you do it, you kind of feel like the weirdo because you look around and you got tourists in shorts and flip flops and backwards trucker hats like this, and then you've got you in a suit and you're just walking down Main Street, and people are going to look, and a lot of people will come up and tell you, oh, what's going on? And like, oh, it's Dapper Day. And they're like, oh, I've heard about this. Oh, we didn't know. And I'm like, hey, tomorrow it's in Epcot. Go. If you're taking a short day, go to Walmart tonight, buy something nice, come to Epcot, come hang out at Epcot and participate. And I've actually had people, I've seen them the next day and they've dressed up, and I'm like, you did it. It's awesome. That's what it's all about. Like, and man, we planned this thing out way in advance. Like we had, and talking to a funny story, we last year, back up a year, we got in touch with these guys they're on Instagram called the Umbrella Fellas. And they do these amazing hand painted parasol umbrellas and hand fans. And we got in touch with them because we had this idea that we wanted to do. And it was supposed to be for Spring Dapper Day. Well, of course, March 12th or something like that, March 20 something, 21st, something like that, came by and we shut down, and we're like, oh, we'll be back in a month. It's COVID. It's like the cold and the flu. We'll be back. It's fine. Come May, we were still sitting at home, so we didn't have Dapper Day. So we kind of shelved that idea, and then we ended up doing it for the fall. But that was, we had to sit on this idea for 8 months. And it got better as it went on. It's gotten both Lindsay, my girlfriend, and I featured by Dapper Day. So it's, we did a Kermit and Fozzie from the Muppets. And
that's really cool.
The parasol was Fozzie Studebaker, if you've ever seen the movie.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. But yeah, Dapper Day, it's a social event. You get dressed, come out, take some pictures. They've always got photographers running around. Guests come up to you and tell you, hey, you look amazing. It's always nice because Lindsay goes way out. Lindsay does like true vintage. Like she will wear like patterns and fabric that you would have only found vintage wise. Like, she goes all out. And I kind of I get the splash from it because people come up, like I'm dressed just nice too. And they'll come up and be like, you look amazing. And I'm like, like it kind of splashes off her. I get a little bit of it and I'm like, oh, thanks.
Very cool. To me, and I've never been on Dapper Day. I've never been to one of the the Halloween festivities, like the after the parks close, the special ticket events. But it seems very much in the spirit of something like Disney bounding or cosplay or being able to, once a year, everybody gets to dress up and they get to pretend like there's someone else or just dress up.
It's they do it twice a year. We have it coming up April 24th and 5th.
Okay. So
coming up in like a month, less than a month. We're less than 30 days. And I don't have an outfit ready. This is the shortest this is the closest I've ever called it. And that's because, I've been losing weight at a pretty steady pace. So I didn't want to buy something and then it come up on Dapper Day and it's just hanging off me. And I'm like, what do I do now? So I've kind of been putting it off, but, so we have it in April and then we always have it in November. It's usually the same weekend as Mickey's birthday. So like 18th, 19th, 20th, somewhere around that area. That one's always cool. Spring always brings more people. So you see a lot more participation. Fall brings better weather.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, if you are someone who wants to see the parks at Christmas time, but don't actually want to go when it's just massively busy, you know, going in November, especially that early part of November, is really, really good because you do have the nice weather and it's all decked out for the holidays, which is just amazing.
It's
in
incredible.
itself.
As a content creator, it's impossible to cover it all. I have to start the first week or I'm not going to see everything and I'm not going to get everything on camera. It's insane how much they do, even with COVID, how much they did. You know, they cut out Halloween. It was kind of thinned out a little too much because I think they were kind of looking at the numbers of the guests and the resorts, and October was still kind of a dead time. So they didn't really do much. And then come Christmas, they were like, oh, everybody's coming back. Christmas was packed here. Like Christmas was crazy, even though we were doing, I think at the time it was like 25 or 30% capacity. They were hitting that like steady every day. And so they went all out for Christmas, and it was nice, you know, to see the tree. And they did the little cavalcades, which included the toy soldiers, which are my favorite things. They did for the first time, they did some nighttime entertainment with the projections on the castle. So, because they wanted to see how people would behave, you know, it wasn't just to say, hey, it's Christmas, here's a little something. Yeah, that was part of it, but I'd say that was about 25% of it. 75% of it was, how are guests going to behave? Are they going to social distance? Are they going to crowd? Are they going to show up 20 minutes before it starts and camp out? Are they going to stay and just stay there all night long? What are they going to do? And that's, you know, because it wasn't a show, it was lights. It was just lights, you know, it was just the projections, and they would change every 5 minutes or so. So you'd see people, they'd stay there for one like cycle and then they'd go. And that was it. You know, there was no show, there was no parade. So there was no, hey, you didn't even know what time it was going to start. Like if it started at 7:55, you didn't know that, you know, because on the time, there's no times guide. So people couldn't just show up and be like, oh, we're sitting here waiting on the castle. Like you might be waiting 20 minutes. You might be waiting 3 hours. You don't know. So it kept people from doing that, which is nice because it keeps people from crowding.
Yeah. And on that topic, what are your impressions of the parks since they have reopened, as far as like crowd level and everything, but also the way that Disney is trying to work through this situation and trying to keep guests safe and cast members safe? What's your impression of what's going on right now in the parks?
I feel safer in a Disney theme park than I do at Walmart, because the masks are regulated. You have to wear it. There is no way around it. You know, I've been in my local Walmart and I see people all the time. They walk in through the door with it on, and then they just pop that thing off and go about their business. And nobody in Walmart is going to say a word. And it's just like, whereas at Disney, I got yelled. I've only gotten in trouble one time since, and that was because I was filming for Halloween. They did the Haunted Mansion Hitchhiking Ghost popcorn buckets. It was the trio. And I got the first part of it, and I was holding it up and filming it, and I had my mask off, and I was eating popcorn, but I had my mask off and I was talking. So a cast member from about 30 feet away went, "You need to put your mask back on." And I was like, you know, so, you know, they really are, they do enforce it, and they actually have cast members, that is their job. They walk around in yellow shirts. They have the signs that say, please leave your mask up for photos, because that's been the biggest issue is people get in front of the castle and they, you know, and then they put it back on, hopefully not get caught. So that's been the hardest. That's been the, you know, kind of the, you know, the easiest thing is they've been enforcing it. So, as for distancing, the hardest time I've seen with distancing is in the ride queues, because people are just, you're trained. You're trained to close the empty space. I always say it's kind of weird that, you know, you remember Haunted Mansion, you know, it's always please step in and clear all the dead space in the room. Now they don't say that because
They're saying leave a lot of dead space in the room.
It doesn't sound as creepy to go, please step into the room, but stay 6 feet away from the group in front of you. It doesn't, so it's kind of, weird to see that. And even I have stepped up like beyond and be like, oh, whoop, and have to back up to the line. But now it's kind of, it's kind of trained in me. You can always tell who the locals are because we're the ones that are like really good at it. And the tourists, just, every once in a while you get one, you're like, what are you doing?
Well, and that's a very interesting point with, I mean, I've heard it said many times and people have said it much more eloquently than myself, but what we're going through right now, just as a society, we're going through traumatic experience where people are trying to when are people going to be comfortable doing things? When are people wanting to get back out and do things? And the people who are out and doing things, like kind of what are their comfort levels? And so you're dealing with all of these different levels of comfort. And so there are things that will stick around in the parks and will need to stick around in the parks. Like, a lot of the things that they used to have in the parks where you could touch and you could play with different things and it was very interactive. I'm not sure what the future of those things are. I haven't been to the parks yet since they've reopened, but I've heard a lot of seemingly success with like the virtual queues that they have at restaurants and like what they've done with Rise of the Resistance and everything. Do you think maybe that's something that will stick around as regarding the ride queues? Because I could see that being something that based on what we're going through right now, it could take people a long time to be comfortable going back to the way that it was, to crowding into queue spaces. Do you think we're going to see more virtual queues and more spacing, even when 2 years or however long down the road we kind of get that notification that, okay, it's okay to kind of go back to how things were to a certain extent?
I would like to see some of this stay. The distancing has been nice because you don't have people just like crowding up on you. Especially for things like, happily ever after. Happily ever after, it depends on the night, man. Sometimes it's nice. You got a little wiggle room, and some nights you can't move. It's you're elbow to elbow. It's rough. So I'm kind of hoping that maybe they keep the spacing. I would like to see the capacity kind of stay, and that's not because I want a less crowded park. Yes, it's nice. It's nice to be able to ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train in less than 45 minutes. Yeah. That's nice. That's really nice. But let me tell you, man, it doesn't matter with that capacity. Rise to the Resistance, man. Luck's got to be on your side. It really does. I've gotten group 3, I've gotten group 87, and then I've gotten nothing at all. So it's, man, it is random and it is tough. But I would like to see some of the stuff that we're doing stick around. Just because it makes for a more comfort, mm-hmm. and it makes for a more comfortable day. Mm-hmm. Because let me tell you, as a local, and let me tell you, when you get into Magic Kingdom and you see Main Street and it's just people, you're just like, oh God, like, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
The reservation system, as much as people complain about it, I myself, I am not innocent of this. I've complained about it multiple times. I would like to see the reservation system stick, and they could make it, the thing I complain about is how pass holders are kind of getting the short end of the stick, but we're also the ones that pay, I don't mind saying what I pay. I pay $55 a month, I think $54 a month for my pass. Sometimes that's all Disney gets from me. Sometimes I don't buy water. I bring a water bottle and fill it up. I don't always buy merchandise. I most likely don't eat in the parks because I can just eat at home, or I can get something on the way there or way home. So I don't spend that money.
Yeah.
But people that are coming from, say, Tennessee,
Yep.
You just paid thousands of dollars to come to Disney. You need to be guaranteed park entry.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas annual pass holders, we get the smallest amount of those passes. Like right now, you can't get a park pass as an annual pass holder, even if you're not blacked out. It's that crazy. And I think over the last weekend, I actually looked, and I think all 3 groups were all gone, which means you couldn't just walk up to Magic Kingdom, buy a ticket, and go in. You could be staying at a hotel and you still wouldn't get in. When you were an annual pass holder, you weren't getting it. So it's, and thinking ahead, October, we see, at least Magic Kingdom 50. Everybody says it's Walt Disney World 50. It's Magic Kingdom 50. But Magic Kingdom 50 happens October 1st. And those are already gone in all 3 tiers. It's gone. So even if you make that reservation right now, you're not getting it on October 1st. Yeah. And I would like to see that. I would like to see that stick, because as that capacity goes up, those windows and those allotments will go up as well. Mm-hmm. So I would like to see that happen. That way they can kind of cap it. We've got park hopping back after 2. So if you're one of these people that's like, I want to start Magic Kingdom and then go to Epcot, you can do that now. You just can't go to Epcot till after 2.
Yeah.
So I would like to see that reservation system stick. As much of a pain as it is sometimes, I would like to see that stick, because it helps keep that capacity where it needs to be.
Yeah. And this to transition a little bit, this is sort of some of the conversations you have with people on your podcast, which now it started with the YouTube videos. The YouTube videos are still there, but now there is a dedicated podcast as well for the moving platform. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you do on your podcast?
Well, the podcast is really just kind of scratches the itch that I came from the world of radio. I've worked for a couple of different stations before. And so I've always been more of a audio guy than video, like I said earlier. I started the podcast when we shut down, because I couldn't go in the parks anymore. I couldn't film anymore. We couldn't even go to Disney Springs. It was done. We were closed till July. So I knew I had to do something. So, a friend of ours gave me the idea to do the podcast. And I could do it through Zoom. I could do it in person. The first episode, I think I did it in person. We did it before the shutdown. But then starting with like episode 2, I think, episode 2, we did it in person. Like episode 3, we were in Zoom, and we've been in Zoom ever since. I've only done one in-person podcast since the shutdown. And that was, I've started a couple different segments. But what did it was I wanted to hear the stories behind other content creators. And I wanted to, that series is called One Little Spark. And it's to hear the story about their journey, that one little spark of imagination, not to steal from the Sherman Brothers, but that one little spark of imagination that said, you know what? I love Disney. I'm going to do this. I want to hear that story. So that started. I've had people like, I've had Lou Mangiello from WDW Radio. I've had John Securi from Big Fat Panda. Lisa Donato Glassner from the Castle Run. So I've had multiple people on, and just to hear the story, how Lou left Big Law and like a tech company and moved down here and moved into a house sight unseen. And was like, kind of that, how are my kids going to eat if this thing doesn't work? Like, oh my gosh, hearing that story, and then hearing something like, Panda's story about how they never went on vacation. They would go to like the national park or something, and that was their vacation. And then that first trip to Disney changed everything. Hearing those stories, it just makes you so happy to hear them. But then I've got another series called Bring It to the Table, which is, I've only done one episode of that, but I've got more that I want to do. And that really is I don't even bring a microphone for that. I do it right here. I open up voice memos, I hit record, I put the phone down, and we talk while we enjoy a meal together. It's not really a dining review. We do talk about the food, but we don't go, oh, how's your shrimp? Oh, it's a little undercooked. We don't do that, So, the podcast, I wanted it to be something else. I wanted to think of TMP is kind of this, if you think about Magic Kingdom, you know, the hub and spoke,
Mhm.
that the moving platform is the hub. And then you've got the spoke, you've got the Instagram, you've got the blog post, you've got the videos, and you've got the podcast. So there's kind of your four lands,
Yeah.
the TMP podcast of the moving platform. And it's just, you know, you can kind of go where you want to go. And I've seen people, you know, they kind of chain off of something. Like they'll find the Instagram and they'll be like, oh, what is this? They'll click on the Linktree link. Oh man, he does videos, he does a podcast. And then, you know, I see that they're going here and there. And then I find out, oh, they're following me on Instagram. Now they're following me on YouTube. Now they're listening to the podcast. It's like, that's exactly what I want it to be.
Yeah.
So it was just another piece. And honestly, I don't think there's going to be another one. I think we're done at 4. And that's enough to focus on for me.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I've listened to the episodes I've listened to are very enjoyable. I did listen to your table, the one you did at, I believe, Jock Lindsay's, right?
It's Jock Lindsay's Hangar Bar. And it was, the idea I had for that was to actually have 2 other friends on. It was going to be me and 2 other people. And we just couldn't line up dates. We couldn't make it work, you know, because it was around Christmas. It was a holiday. So we just could not make the dates work. So we were driving, Lindsay and I were driving. We weren't even going to go to Disney Springs. We were going to go to another restaurant over here called Rock and Brews that we love. And I was like, why don't we go to Jock Lindsay's? And she was like, okay. And I was like, cool. So we got in the car, went to Jock Lindsay. And while we're driving, I'm like, how would you feel if I doing the podcast? And she was like, what are we going to talk about? I'm like, everything. And that's what we did. We sat at the bar at Jock Lindsay's. My phone was on the bar and we talked about everything. I defended the fact that Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yes, I remember that. Well, and now that,
so it's just that was that with that. Then that's what I want that to be. I don't even want it doesn't even have to be about Disney. It will be, but I want it to just be conversation.
Yeah. And, you know, you bringing up Die Hard, you think about what's happening with Disney Plus and Star right now. And if that is, if there will be an equivalent to Star, or if Hulu is kind of the equivalent to Star in the United States, and if that's going, what the relationship moving forward with Disney Plus will be, but, you know, maybe we'll see content like that on Disney Plus at some point. That's what people see outside of the United States under the Star brand. So you never know.
I think you're onto something there. You know, Bob Iger was an acquisitions man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was the one that came in. He got Star Wars, he got Marvel, he got Fox, and then he got out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, now we got Bob Chapek, who came from the parks. I think he's a lot more park featured, so that's cool. You know, but he's not Bob Iger. So maybe we won't see acquisitions coming in for a little while. Maybe we will. Maybe, but you know, Iger's kind of put that in him and kind of shown him how to do it. Or maybe they had plans that Iger started and didn't see completed. And we'll see something happen, you know, like Disney buys HBO.
Yeah.
And therefore Disney Plus and HBO Max didn't become this. You know, they always say, you know, do we think Disney Plus will pass Netflix? And I think it will take a while, but I think it'll happen as Disney acquires, and as Disney, you know, Disney has Hulu now. Like I pay the higher tiered amount. I think it's $12.99, and I get Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus. Well, actually, I used to do it. Sorry, I backed out. I backed down to just Disney Plus, but that's because I get Hulu with my cell phone plan. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have to have double Hulu. So I backed out to just Disney Plus. But you know, that with that happening, I think as Disney acquires more, I honestly think that surpassing Netflix, I think we're already kind of seeing it's a very dim light, but there's light at the end of that tunnel.
Well, and I've joked with people before about, you know, we're all in this world of a la carte entertainment now, and cord cutting and everything, and the price people are paying when you look at everything that, you know, they have Disney Plus, Netflix, HBO Max, all these different services. most people are actually probably paying more than they did using the old cable model. And I've often joked that, it's going to be 3 or 4 years before a company such as Disney comes along and says, hey, why don't we combine all of these things that you like? And then essentially we're all under the same old cable model. It's now just streaming rather than, the terrestrial television.
The one I actually see doing that first would be Universal. Okay. Because Universal has NBC. Mm-hmm. So it's not out of and I believe there's something with Comcast possibly there. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see that maybe Universal is the first one that kind of buys into TV and maybe launches a Universal streaming, and that streaming will include live television cable. I mean, Hulu has Hulu TV, YouTube even has it now. Then you've got stuff like, what's the name of it? Starts with an S. Can't remember the name of it. They have it. They have that TV, and so I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think Disney, even with ESPN Plus, you can get on and watch live sports as they air. You can go in and watch the 30 for 30s. You can go back and watch sporting events, from a week before, or, whatever. But you can also get in and watch UFC pay-per-views, with your subscription and things like that. And I don't think it's, I don't think it's out of the realm that we will eventually see Disney do a live TV tie-in into Disney Plus. It may be Disney. I would love to see maybe like a Disney Channel, Disney XD. And what I've always wanted, and I've always said this needed to happen, and maybe this is just for me, but I think there's enough of a audience for it. I remember growing up on Disney Channel, they used to have Vault Disney, and it was all the old TV specials, Lone Ranger, Zorro, Skip and Marty, things like that. I think Vault Disney could run on its own as a channel.
Okay.
I would love to see that. If Disney launches their own live television streaming, that it be something of like Disney Channel XD, Disney Channel in maybe like in Spanish. And then like Vault Disney, they could definitely do those niche channels and launch that streaming. Absolutely, they could.
Well, and it's now about 2 weeks ago at time of recording that Disney, their big announcement in the sports world is their agreement with the NFL, and they're starting in 2022. They're going to start integrating more games into the Disney family, and things like Monday Night Football, I believe, starts maybe 2023, and in 2026, I think they're going to have their first Super Bowl within the ABC, the Disney family, whether that's ABC, ESPN, what it may be. So that is kind of seen as a step toward bringing that live sports, more live sports entertainment in as well, that now you see on ESPN Plus, you do see with some of what Peacock's doing and things like that.
I just had to subscribe to Peacock because that's the only way I'm going to be able to watch WrestleMania live.
I was about to mention the being a big wrestling fan, WWE. That was one thing. Comcast purchased the WWE network to put on Peacock when or soon after launch.
So I think WrestleMania is going to be the first live event.
Okay.
Or I think that stuff that weekend, like the Hall of Fame and maybe NXT and then WrestleMania. But that's good. Yeah, it's the fact that WrestleMania is now going to be on something that's not a dedicated WWE network. Because, man, let me say, I remember I was there when WWE Network launched. That first day, I knew what I was watching. So it's, to see it go to somewhere else, it's like, what? I don't understand.
Yeah.
And then I signed up for Peacock and I was like, oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah. Another thing that I want to transition to is this idea. And when I first reached out to you, we kind of communicated about fan theories as well. And in the class, in the course, we've talked about fan produced content, and that's the vlogs and everything that you do, and the podcast that you and others do, and this is as well. But also We've talked about some of, fan-made films and things like that. But one thing that is really, really interesting, and we'll start talking about, what do you think it is about Disney that makes people want to engage on a level where they are creating content and they are putting out theories, whether it's about whether it's about what happened on WandaVision, what's going to happen on the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Mandalorian, or what's going to happen in some of the parks with some of the attractions, and what attractions are kind of older and maybe need to be rethemed. And so just to start, and we'll get into more of the attractions in a bit, but to start, what do you think it is about Disney that makes people want to discuss this and come up with theories? Most theories, by the way, that which we all know are probably not going to come true.
Right.
That's kind of the surprise of it, is seeing what comes next. But what do you think it is that causes all of this interest?
Really, that's kind of a two-way, it's kind of a forked answer with the creation. Just like me, there's people out there that are creative, and you've got to have a medium, you've got to have a way to express it, or it's just going to bottle up and you it just marinate and pressure cook in there. So if you love Disney, that's why you Disney. If you're a video gamer, you got stuff like Twitch. So it's, for me with the creation, it's because I love it and I know I can produce that content. It's not a chore for me to go to Magic Kingdom and go, hey, today's the first day of, Christmas decorations. Let's go show stuff around. Let's go show you what's happening. I'm excited to be there. I want to see it. So if you hear my excitement, it makes you excited. So that's with that content creation. That's that. As for the fan theories, one word: imagination.
Mm-hmm.
It's, there's a reason they're not called Disney engineers, they're called Disney Imagineers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's really Disney. You can do what you want. And I think a lot of times, myself included, I think a lot of times we kind of want to play, armchair Imagineer, where we say, what would be cool is if, this, like I've always said, my blue sky Imagineer idea is to retheme Pinocchio's village house in Fantasyland to the Snuggly Duckling from Tangled.
Okay.
See, that's armchair Imagineering. There's no plans to do that. Nobody in Imagineering is sitting there going, you know what? Let's make the Snuggly Duckling. I mean, they might be, but they may not be. That's all me. I don't know. So, I think it's just, we sit and we have these ideas, and, I think a popular one I've heard recently is people want what was supposed to be in Epcot, because you go through the countries, you go Mexico, Norway, China, and then the African outpost. Well, that was supposed to be a full African pavilion. You can still find on YouTube. You can find the video of Alex Haley talking about it. Of course, you don't know who Alex Haley is. He wrote Roots. And he was talking about the Africa pavilion, and it never happened. It never got built. And so now you kind of get the refreshment outpost. I think a lot of people want to see that, and what's behind it become Wakanda from Black Panther. And I'm like, you know what? I don't hate that idea, and that's it. I think Disney fans kind of want to sit back and go, well, you know what? If it was up to me, I'd do this.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun thing to do. And it's a conversation. You can get around talking to your Disney friends going, what would be cool if they, they made an Iron Man roller coaster. Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. What if they made, Coke? What if they redid the Mexico boat ride to Coco? And I'm like, that would be awesome. So, I think it's fun to do it, and then when those ideas come to life, or you see them happen, you can sit back and go, I had that idea. Yeah. That was me. Like, somebody stole my idea. I should be working for Imagineering, Yeah.
And, I've seen the kind of renderings of what the Mexico Pavilion would look, or what the ride would look like as Coco. And I've seen kind of renderings of even what Journey into Imagination would look like as Inside Out. And you know, as more IP comes into the parks, um, there's the possibility of seeing more and more of that. And you mentioned, well, like what's happening now with building the Journey of Water based around Moana and things like that. You can see more of this IP coming into the parks, which I think is seemingly the way of the future, at least for the Disney parks and what they're going to be doing entertainment wise. You mentioned Tangled, and you mentioned the Snuggly Duckling, and early days in the pandemic, I have two young sons, and we called it preschool at home. And we would do kind of these little projects and everything. And two times we did kind of put on their Imagineering hat, and what would they design if they could. And the first one was an older now TV show from the Disney Channel, The Imagination Movers. And that was kind of their attraction that they did. But then the second one we did was on Tangled, and kind of how would you do an attraction based around that. And the Tangled section of Fantasyland is I have to say, the neatest, coolest themed restroom and rest area in any of the parks, the way they have that decorated.
It's the best bathroom on Disney property. Yeah. Man, it is. I ain't gonna lie. And then at nighttime, you see all the people taking the nice romantic picture with the lantern. I'm like, it's the most romantic picture you can take in front of a bathroom.
Yeah. So then I want to ask a few questions. You mentioned kind of your blue sky, reimagining the Village Haas to the Snuggly Duckling.
Oh, trust me, I've got more of those, but that's my number one.
An attraction that doesn't necessarily have to take the place of an existing attraction. But if you could pick an attraction that would be developed from IP that Disney currently owns, whether that's Disney proper, whether that's Marvel, Star Wars, anything, and taking into account that, let's say the Marvel, Disney did have the rights to build more Marvel properties in Orlando based on contracts. What would be the attraction you would want to design?
When I was in college, I was a history major, specializing. Here we are, words. Specializing in American history, especially colonial. I would love to see something Captain America happen in the American Adventure. While I love the American Adventure show, it is every time I'm in Epcot, I have to do it because I love it. It's not just because it's 35 minutes in the air conditioning. It's a beautiful show, but I would like to see, even if it's just like a walkthrough thing, something Captain America through history. I would love to see something like that. Like, I think that would be cool. And that would be perfect for Epcot because it's edutainment.
Yeah.
It's educational and entertainment, together. So I would love to see that. Once that contract, whatever, that blood oath deal, who knows what it is anymore? Like, it's like, oh, Disney can't do anything Marvel east of the Mississippi. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, clearly that's not true, because we're doing the Guardians coaster, and they got some other stuff coming and other stuff happening. So yeah, California Adventures got Captain America, meet and greet. They got the Spider-Man ride. They got the Spider-Man meet and greet. They got all this crazy stuff, and they can do all that kind of stuff. I would like to see that deal come up. I'm excited about Cosmic Rewind, the Guardians coaster. Yeah. And I think, and I have a theory about that. a little bit. And that's, because they've already said, oh, it's going to have a reverse launch. Like you're going to get launched backwards. So, and then the name is Cosmic Rewind. So everybody's like, oh, it's because you're going to go backwards. I'm like, no, it's because we're going to see some classic Epcot in it. We're going to rewind.
Oh,
we're going to see maybe you come back to Dreamfinder and Horizons and like all this old school Epcot, because they made a point to say this ride is about when Peter Quill visited Epcot in the 1980s.
Okay.
So we're going to rewind it back. We're going to go back 82 to like 85, 86 Epcot. That's the rewind. So that's my theory on that.
That is real quick. That is a big theory that you keep the receipt on that if that comes to fruition. I haven't heard that.
I need to write it down. That way I'm like, on this date, I said this.
So does that mean you should be contacting Ron Schneider to tell him he's coming back as the original Dreamfinder?
Man,
or he's making an appearance.
I wish for like a reunion or something. They would let him come back and put the suit on, put a suit on one more time.
Yeah.
And come out as Dreamfinder. I would love that.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really cool, especially because I didn't get to see that. Yeah. Epcot's my baby. I love it. It's where I worked, but I didn't visit it till 1992. Yeah. So I missed out on a lot of stuff. I missed out on Dreamfinder and Figment walking around. I don't think I rode the original Imagination. I don't think I rode Horizons. No, I don't think I rode World of Motion. So, but I don't remember. So, and my mom was an avid attraction photo taker. I've got pictures of Small World with the Flash and Pirates of the Caribbean with the Flash and all these old pictures. And there's none of the attractions at Epcot. So I'm like, did we ride these or did we just go to the World Showcase?
Yeah.
Judging by how my mom is now in Epcot, I'm going to say we just went to World Showcase because that is where she's happiest. Like, she's like, Future World's cool. I can ride Soarin', but then let's go to the countries. I'm like, okay. So, but I think that's what that is. I think that's my fan theory. But attraction, if you want like ride wise, man, I think that Coco in Mexico, I think that needs to happen. Just because, Grand Fiesta Tour is awesome. I love riding it. It's a nice, relaxing ride. But if you've been keeping a pulse on the Disney updates and everything, you see that it's in rough shape. The Donald animatraction clearly needs some reworking. So they've pulled it out. They pulled all three of them out. Now there's just like this like cardboard cutout. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that just looks bad. And I'm like, so I think eventually they'll invest that money and we'll see, something better. I'm super excited about Princess and the Frog taking over Splash Mountain. A lot of people are not excited about that. And I'm not going to get into, any of that. To me, I love Splash Mountain. I don't always ride it, but I do love it. However, man, I'm ready for Princess and the Frog. I'm ready for that. And if that ride does not end in a beignet cafe instead of a gift shop, someone did not pitch this ride right. Like, come on, let's do it.
Maybe it ends with just beignets dropping down on everybody.
Yeah. You get out of the log and they just hand you beignets. Like, hey, all right, thank you. And
so then if there's an IP that Disney does not own that they could purchase, what IP would you like to see purchased and developed into some sort of attraction at the parks? And this doesn't necessarily have to have wide appeal. This could be, if Michael could pick an IP that is purchased and developed into an attraction and he wants to go to that, let's make it happen. What would that be for you?
Just go ahead and buy DC.
Okay.
You've got Marvel, buy DC.
Okay.
I would love to see, we had the release on HBO Max last week of Zack Snyder's 4-day long Justice League. I still haven't finished it. It's 4 hours long. I haven't finished it yet. I would love to see DC get the MCU treatment.
Okay.
I keep Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill is a fantastic Superman. I would love to see that happen. I know that's they have their attractions are in Six Flags.
Six Flags, yeah.
But I don't think Six Flags is so much of a contender. Like, I don't think really Disney pays attention to what Six Flags is doing. So I think they could probably just say, hey, you can keep this going. We just, license it to them.
Yeah.
But then we can open up and we can see, some stuff. But with that, obviously that's never going to happen because they've got so much going on with Marvel. That's a bottomless pit. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming out in, what is it, phase 3 or phase 4 now, you're like, I've never even heard of this. Like, what is this? Like, I'd never heard of Ant-Man before Paul Rudd, and I definitely never heard of the Wasp. And I'm like, okay, like, this is crazy. Like, they're just throwing this stuff, left and right with Marvel. They've got so much they could do. And then Star Wars finally giving fans what they wanted with the Shaka Tano and all this stuff. And it's like, there's bottomless pits of these IPs. But honestly, I would love to see him do something with DC. Because the DC product and the DC universe deserves better than the treatment that it's gotten, because it really has become Marvel's amazing and DC is terrible. Like, everybody looked at the Justice League movie that went out in theaters and they were just like, this is god awful. This is terrible. But then you get, oh, this is what it looks like if Zack Snyder had gotten to make the movie he wanted. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's, and then you've got James Gunn, who, was fired from Guardians. And then he went over, he was like, okay. So of course DC was first to scoop him up to do Suicide Squad. It looks super amazing. It looks like a Marvel movie. And then of course they were like, we were wrong, come back.
Yeah.
So he's back.
Yeah.
But DC, I would love to see them do something. I would say Looney Tunes, but they're also Six Flags. And Bugs Bunny is Six Flags is Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
So, Universal's got Hanna-Barbera, at least to some point. But they could also do some stuff there.
Yeah.
SeaWorld got Sesame Street. There's just it's kind of, the IPs. Everybody's kind of got one. Universal's got their Marvel, and then they've got the Simpsons and things like that, and then you've got Six Flags has Warner Brothers, and SeaWorld got Sesame Street, and so everybody's got something. But you also have the Fox merger.
Yes.
So you've got so much you can do there. I would love to see something like, remember the old Superstar Television?
Yep. Yeah.
Something like that. Bring that back. Hey, you can star in an episode of this or that.
Yeah.
And also, I loved Alien Encounter at Magic Kingdom. I would love to see an Alien Encounter reimagined, put into Hollywood Studios, and reimagine it to what it was supposed to be, which was the xenomorph, the alien from Alien.
Yeah.
From Ridley Scott's Alien. So I would love to see that. So maybe my answer to this in the long form really should have been, do something with the Fox merger. Don't just put that product out and say, here's what we're going to do. Like, here's all these old television shows. Here's Turner and Hooch, a reboot of Turner and Hooch. Here's a reboot of Three Men and a Baby. Like, do something new.
Yeah.
With this.
And, the Fox merger brings up so many interesting things, because you already have the relationship with Disney and Comcast and what they're doing at Walt Disney World, and what Marvel or what Universal Studios is able to do with Marvel. You have Simpsons at Universal Studios now. With the Fox merger, Simpsons is on Disney Plus, and so there's so much there that through negotiations and different things that IPs are either tied up in one place or another, and you really could do a lot for multiple companies. I think if the decision makers and those decisions are made to kind of everybody go with the IP that they own, that their parent company owns, that's what we're going to have in the parks, and that's what we're going to build our attractions around, because it does make it makes for pretty awkward situations where, not just for people who want to go to Walt Disney World and see Captain America, and you have to explain, well, you can't do that. You need to go to Islands of Adventure. You can't see Homer Simpson. You have to go to
Over to
Universal
the
to
other
see that.
side. Yeah.
It's also awkward for a company like Universal that you are, when somebody comes and they're going on the Hulk roller coaster, well, you are in a way promoting what the MCU is putting out. When they're going on, doing the Simpsons attractions, you are in a way promoting something that a rival company is working on and is putting on their platforms. So the last kind of question on this is a very popular fan theory for a long time, and people playing armchair Imagineer, is the mythical fifth gate. That someday at Walt Disney World there will be a fifth gate that's built. And I think last year the major land purchase that they made, that was kind of that idea, is like, oh, is this finally the fifth gate? Well, I don't want to theorize about if one is coming. But what I do want to ask is, if a fifth gate is ever made, again, doesn't have to be wide appeal. What would be Michael Ruffin's idea of a fifth gate?
This is a question that I've always had an answer, but over the years that answer has changed. But I still go back to the first answer because I would like to see it too. So I answered this in kind of a cheating way and say, go with me here, to say that originally I wanted it to be a villain's park.
Okay.
I wanted to be Disney's Villain Kingdom, or Disney's Villainous Kingdom.
Similar, kind of like Kingdom Keepers.
Yes. Yeah. Disney's Villainous Kingdom. And you could even marvel it after Magic Kingdom. The centerpiece could be Maleficent's castle. And then you kind of go from there, and then maybe it's a way we get New Orleans Square here, and because it's Dr. Facilier and Hades and the underworld and all this cool stuff, you could do a lot there. However, I believe that now could be, if they have any land in Magic Kingdom, they can do this in. I don't think they do, but they could always blow out some land and do something there, and make it the villains park. There was always that rumor. Everybody always talked about it. It was the first Disney rumor. It came from the forums and message boards. Was, oh, they're going to build a villains roller coaster. Okay, let's do that. I'm happy with that. Let's do that. That's cool. But now, Marvel.
Yeah,
it's Marvel because
a full Marvel park.
Absolutely, because you can do the lands. You've got, your center, if you want to do a hub and spoke, you can, your centerpiece is, Stark Tower. It's Stark, or that's your Tomorrowland is Stark, Stark Industries. You can do Wakanda. You can do, Spider-Man's Brooklyn. You can do Captain America's, over here. So you can do that with, and then they could do Guardians in, kind of branching off from the Stark Industries. And so there's a lot there. And I think that whatever that deal with the devil that is just written somewhere in blood, and I don't know when that ends, but that contract that says Universal's got Marvel on the East Coast and Disney can't do Captain America, Spider-Man, the X-Men, Hulk, or Thor, I think is those. It's the big name ones.
Yeah.
It's the Avengers. You can't do anything with it. You can't touch it. One day that contract's going to expire. And let me tell you, when it does, hidden in the depths of Imagineering, in the vault somewhere behind 3 steel plated doors, and the key codes change daily. Behind it's like a Las Vegas casino, behind that vault in there are plans.
Yeah.
And I think those plans are starting to come to life out in DCA with the Spider-Man ride
Avengers
opening,
Campus, and
the Avengers Campus, all that happening. Those ideas are coming. And let me tell you, when that contract ends, maybe we just get a clone of what's happening in DCA. Maybe we get something different. That those plans, they exist. And when that contract comes up, watch out, because it's coming. And a lot of people complain about how Hollywood Studios has kind of become Disney Star Wars land.
Yeah.
and it has, in a way. If you go to the back left of the park,
Yeah.
yes. If you go to the Galaxy's Edge side, which, yeah, you do have Launch Bay over, on the right. And I think that eventually will absorb into Batu and kind of become its own thing over there. But, a lot of people complained about that. But if you do Marvel as its own park, you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
If you're not a Marvel fan, don't go to the Marvel park. But right now, if you're not a Star Wars fan, but you still want to go ride Mickey Minnie Runaway Railway, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, you want to go do those things that are in Hollywood Studios, just avoid the back left of the park.
Yeah.
But you look around and you see everybody walking around in Jedi robes. They've got the lightsabers, and it's kind of the focal. Hey, have you been to Galaxy's Edge yet? No, I'm not a Star Wars fan. Oh, you should go check it out. I'm not a Star Wars fan. They can't escape that.
Yeah.
Whereas at Marvel, you're not a Marvel fan? Cool. You don't go to the fifth park.
Yeah.
By the way, the fifth park is going to be the Target they announced at D23.
another fan theory. Yeah.
You saw that thing. It's huge, and it was actually a joke going around when they finished the exterior of the Gardens of the Galaxy coaster building. Somebody put the Target logo on it with the Target sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're like, so guys, this is not a coaster. It's actually the Target.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting. You talk about a fifth gate as either a villain's park, because then you can get into this whole idea of Kingdom Keepers, which I'm not sure how many people are aware of. It was a very popular book series, and there were theories again of that possibly being developed into a Disney Plus show. Now you have, I believe, what they're referring to as the Magic Kingdoms being a Disney Plus program that they're developing. So you could do so many different things with the Villains Park. You could also do so many different things with a Marvel park. And being a huge MCU fan, the way that they are just evolving that property, you could do so much with a fifth gate as a Marvel property. I haven't heard that idea, and I really, really like that idea. That's something that I will probably start thinking more and more about what attractions, what lands, and what everything would go into that park. So thanks for that one.
But what I wanted them to redo Interventions as Stark Industries.
Yeah.
That way you could go in, even if it was hologram of Tony Stark. I went and cast a live actor because everybody wants Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it, but do like films and hologram work where it's like, showing the interventions that Stark Industry and how they're going to change the future. That was what Interventions was.
Yeah.
So, it could do that, And
it was, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, that was
it every time I watch Iron Man 2 and you see the Stark Expo, every time I watch that, I think 1964 New York World's Fair.
Yep.
And just the ties of so many of the ties between that movie and between what the company was doing at the 64-65 New York World's Fair and the things that have come from that. It would be fascinating. It sounds like to kind of summarize what we've talked about, it sounds like the deal with Marvel and Universal and Disney just needs to be worked out. So everybody could get their Marvel park and move about their day. That would be something we go on vacation. I would probably spend 3 or 4 days at that park.
I think a lot of people would.
So the last thing I like to do is just a series of rapid fire questions. These are questions, most of them about the parks. You can expand on them as much as you want. You can explain if you want. You don't have to do any explanation if you want. It's completely up to you. Just one of the first things that comes to your mind.
Got it.
So to start, within Walt Disney World, what's your favorite gate?
Epcot is my favorite gate because it's my baby. I feel like it's my home. It's kind of weird now to walk into the front of it and not hear that old entrance loop anymore. A little bit of me kind of got sad, but then I heard the new loop and I'm like, you know what? This new loop is so Epcot. It's perfect that I'm not even upset about it anymore. Epcot's my favorite, but I do love Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Had you asked between all the Disney parks, the answer would have been Disneyland.
Okay.
And that's why I love Magic Kingdom, because it's, the closest thing I can get to Disneyland without getting on a plane.
Yeah. What is it about Disneyland?
The history.
That makes it your favorite. Yeah.
The history. You can feel it. You can physically feel something different there. You step in as soon as you see the lantern in the firehouse window, and you know what that means. For those of you that don't know, back in the 1950s, early 60s, when Walt was in the park, cast members would light the lantern, and that was what they called a code W, meaning Walt's in the park, be on your best behavior, really deliver the magic today. So when Walt passed, they lit the lantern, and the lantern glows 24 hours a day, 365 days. When the candle burns down, they go up with a new candle, light it, replace it. It never goes out ever, and it's gone since through the pandemic. It's been lit. So it's been, that's just, when you see that kind of stuff, you're like, man, that's Disneyland. And it's everybody's like, oh, it's so small. No, Disneyland is quaint.
Yeah.
And you take that corner, and when you turn that corner on Main Street and you see, little bitty Sleeping Beauty castle. Yeah, it is like, oh, it's so small. But it's like, in 1955, that was huge.
Yeah.
And they aren't going to go in and go, well, we're going to rebuild Sleeping Beauty castle. No, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
They're not going to do that. Matter of fact, atop of Sleeping Beauty castle, there's these golden spires. One of them is bronze. And the reason behind that is, no matter what's happening, no matter what, Disneyland will never be 100% complete as long as there's imagination in the world. And so that's that, it'll never be done, because they'll never paint that spire.
Yeah. I really
you hear all the stories about Walt, Walt's light bulb at the Coke corner. And then you go over down the alley and you see the test brick wall where they had all the different brick they were thinking about using on Main Street. And it's like this color, that texture, this color, that's history.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. There's so many things about, you go in their Fantasyland. Honestly, I would love to go to their Fantasyland on Dapper Day, because let me tell you, it would look like 1955.
Yeah.
That's how awesome their Fantasyland is. It's so classic.
And I like that story. I really enjoy the story about not finishing the castle, never finishing the castle. That's a fun one to hear. And I also should point out to people who, students or listeners who maybe are listening on the podcast and not seeing the video, the big poster behind you of the original layout for Disneyland.
Yeah. That is an original. I believe it's modeled after I think it's 1955, maybe 1958. There's no New Orleans Square on it. It's not an original, because originally the sailing ship Columbia the sailing ship Columbia was in Fantasyland. It didn't go. It moved to the Rivers of America later. So this map shows it on the Rivers of America. So it's not in 1955, because if it was 1955, it would be in Fantasyland. Okay. There's a huge map of the 1955 layout at Disneyland in the lobby of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. And you can see the changes, and you can see just how little there was. There was little there was to do, in Disneyland in 1955.
Yeah.
But still, it'll always have my heart.
Yeah. Any park you've been to, any gate you've been to, do you have a favorite attraction that's a ride?
I think everybody's answer to this is Haunted Mansion. You can't see it on the video, but I have a china cabinet back here just packed to the gills with Haunted Mansion. I can't put anything else in there. But honestly, I always give my second favorite, because I feel like that's not the cheating answer. Second favorite's Expedition Everest.
Okay. Yeah.
I love, and as soon as it's not even in Epcot, I love Expedition Everest because of how in depth and how immersive that whole experience is, from the queue
Yeah.
to the ride. It's just reeks of Joe Rohde, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you, speaking of Haunted Mansion, preference between Disneyland or Walt Disney World?
Disneyland.
Disneyland, the original.
Yeah. I lived in Louisiana for 15 years, and it's modeled after a Louisiana plantation home. And it gives that swamp feel to it. It is very different in that you walk, if you're familiar with the Disney World version, you ride past the marble bust of the Ghost Riders, and then you ride past the portraits of like Medusa and the Cat Lady, and I want to say it's like the Headless Horseman, pretty much. But you ride past those paintings. In Disneyland, you walk past those because you have to get under the train track.
Yeah.
You have to get under the berm around Disneyland because, most people don't realize when Walt built Disneyland, you could see the Howard Johnson and the McDonald's and all this stuff. And it took away from the escape that when you're in Disneyland, the outside world doesn't exist. And that was the beauty of Disney World, is they had the beauty of size. They're in a McDonald's for 4 miles, you can't see anything, but Disneyland, without that berm, you'd see all sorts of touristy blinking, t-shirts for $9.99. And, you'd see all the stuff that you see on like 192 and Erla Bronson here. You would be able to see that from Fantasyland, and it just takes you out of it. So we built the berm. So they essentially built this mountain of dirt and put, grass and stuff on it, and then put the train track on top of it. So you couldn't see.
Yeah.
Well, you have to get under that because the ride of Haunted Mansion is on the outside.
Yep.
So you have to go. So you walk down that hall, and then you get on the Doom Buggy. But they've also got Hatbox Ghost, who I love. I love Hatbox Ghost, and I'm hoping. Man, I really wanted it by the 50th, and I think it could happen. Honestly, put up a curtain, install the animatronic, test it out, pull that curtain off, and boom, you got Hatbox Ghost. I honestly think it's a 1 month refurb, and they wouldn't even have to shut the ride down to do it. So, fingers crossed, October.
Speaking of fan theories, there we go.
I don't think it's gonna happen, but hey, you never know. You never know.
One of my favorite stories is the difference between Disneyland and Walt Disney World's Haunted Mansion, the stretching room, where Disneyland is actually an elevator that you go down so you can walk under the berm. Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World, the roof stretches up. You exit on the same level.
You can see it when you're in Disneyland. You can feel it. You're like, we're definitely going down. But if you look at the portraits, you can see they're on rollers.
Okay.
So you can see them, kind of rolling down, like almost like tapestries.
That's very cool. Anywhere on any property, it could be Disneyland, Walt Disney World. Do you have a favorite restaurant?
Ooh, quick service or full service?
Either you could give both.
Quick service, Satu'li Canteen in Pandora in Animal Kingdom. Essentially, you can get a big sustainable bowl with like a rice or sweet potatoes or salad with the choice of protein and sauce for the price of a burger and fries.
Okay.
So you get something a lot more healthier, a lot more sustainable, and honestly, 2 people could split it, and it's $15.99, same price as a bacon cheeseburger and some fries and a Coke.
Yeah.
So it's the same, to me, that I love Satu'li Canteen. The food's amazing. So I tell people, I don't like Dak because Dak doesn't have good food. You haven't been to Satu'li Canteen then. Sit down restaurant. I love Blue Bayou.
Okay.
At Disneyland, which is the restaurant, very similar if you've ever been on, used to be a Rio del Tempo, now it's Grand Fiesta Tour, but you have the San Angel right there. Very exact same design, that waterside seating, but it's inside Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Perfect. It's Louisiana food too, and they do it well. They make really good. They make a really good gumbo there, and I judge all Louisiana cuisine restaurants based off your gumbo. The gumbo at Blue Bayou, the Blue Bayou gumbo is fantastic. Good. It's really good. Very pricey, but it's very good.
Anywhere on any of the properties, do you have a favorite show?
Christmas time, Voices of Liberty.
Okay. All right.
I love Voice of Liberty year round, but Christmas time, Voice of Liberty. You get the Christmas carols. They're in there. They're in the Dickensian attire with the top hats, and the ladies are in the really big, almost like Victorian dresses. And then you like their Carol of the Bells. It's unreal how good that is. So Christmas time, Voices of Liberty is my favorite show. It used to be Festival of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. I think it was the name of it. It was the Hunchback show that was in Hollywood, MGM Studios. It was fantastic. Oh, so good. So good. Because that's one of my favorite movies, and it's my favorite music from a Disney movie.
Yeah. Anywhere in any of the properties you've been to, favorite hotel or resort?
The Polynesian.
Polynesian.
Yeah, you can't see it because it's on the other side of the camera, but we have tiki stuff just everywhere. Oh, we got signs. We have a sign above our sink that says "Welcome to our tropical hideaway." As you can see, kind of behind me, you can see the Disneyland map. You can see the Matterhorn poster right up here off camera is the Jungle Cruise one. In the kitchen, we have one for the orange. We have for Sunshine Tree Chair, so it has Orange Bird, and then we have Tropical Serenade, and there's parrots. Over here, we have both the Orange Bird sippers that were available at Epcot, pineapple this, a big boat oar that says "What happens in the tiki room stays in the tiki room." The poster here, tiki mugs all over the place. Polynesian. I finally got to stay there.
Yeah.
Just a few months ago, and we loved it. And of course, we're anxiously waiting for Trader Sam's Grotto to come back. I will be there first day, man. I will wait in line at ungodly time of day to make sure I get into Trader Sam's on the first day it's back.
Are you excited about the somewhat retheming of Polynesian
with the Moana stuff?
Moana?
Yeah, because a lot of people kind of wanted to get their pitchforks and torches and raise up an angry mob about it because they thought the whole thing was being done to Moana. Like, it's no longer going to be Disney's Polynesian Village. It's going to be Moana, the Heart of Te Fiti Hotel. And I'm like, that's not it. What they're doing is the lobby is untouched. The DVC rooms are untouched. But some of the rooms in the main buildings of the resort are getting the magical touches of Moana. They've changed the carpet. They've done some stuff. And something like they did I think it's French Quarter. I think they did it with Princess and the Frog. And is it Beach Club? They did Pirates.
Okay.
So they've done this before.
Yeah.
This wasn't a first time. They've done this before. So there's lots they could do. So I'm excited. I would love to see it. I don't know if I'll ever stay in one of those rooms because that's just not what I go for, but I would love to see one. I would love to be able to tour one.
Yeah. Well, and if people know about the Walt Disney Company, one thing to know is trust the Imagineers. If they're given if they have the resources, they do a very, very good job. Yeah. Last question. Anywhere in the parks, favorite treat?
Disneyland churros.
Okay. All right.
Don't even got to think about it. Disneyland churros. That's what about a Dole Whip? Nope. Disneyland churro. Turkey leg. Never had one. Disneyland churros. The reason why is because they bring them out. They're maybe like half fried when they bring them out. They're just enough to get the structure to where it's not like flopping. Just a floppy, soft piece of dough. They bring it out. They fry it at the cart.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you get it, it's hot. It's crunchy. There's no humidity, or at least there's not as much here. And here, they fry a churro and put it in the thing. By the time you eat it, it's soggy. It's not good, but it's like warm cinnamon toast crunch right in your mouth. There's video of it. Yeah. Go back on the YouTube. You can actually look at the playlist section. Look at my Disneyland videos. I said the first thing I was going to do in Disneyland was not a ride. The first thing I was going to do in Disneyland was get a churro. And it was. We walked right down Main Street,
Yeah.
right to the churro cart. And there's video of me trying my first Disneyland churro.
Yeah. Very, very
If you ever
cool.
want to, if you ever want to see just pure joy on someone's face, go watch that.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to hear your story, moving there, your fandom, the podcast, what you're doing with the moving platform. It was also fun to talk about these different theories and how all of that could play into the future of the parks. The
like I said, just a few minutes ago, Disneyland would never be complete as long as there's imagination in the world. That's a quote from Walt. And you can take Disneyland out of that. Disney will never be complete as long as there's imagination in the world.
Yep.
So if you've got a crazy theory, man, you know what? That's just imagination. Think it through, write it down. Why would you do it? Where would you do it? When would you do it? How would you do it? Ask those questions: who, what, when, where, and how. Ask those questions about it. And that's it. You get to use your imagination, and who knows? They could end up doing it, and you could be like, I had $1 million idea.
Well, and if Cosmic Rewind takes us back to 1982 or 1980s Epcot Center, we know who to
March 29th
call in for that one. For people who want to, how can they follow you, contact you, keep up with what you're doing?
You can, the easiest way is you can follow it on everything. The Instagram is at The Moving Platform. Right there in the profile bio, there's a link that'll link you to, it'll pull up a page and it's like, here's the website, here's the YouTube, here's the podcast, here's all of it. So Instagram's at The Moving Platform, YouTube / The Moving Platform. And then we're on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher, and a few other things for the podcast wise. So whatever you listen to your podcast on, if you type in The Moving Platform, you'll find the show right there.
Okay. All right. And again, thank you so much for this. This was a lot of fun. Have a great rest of the day.
Oh, thank you so much, man. You as well. And farewell to your class. Have a great day, guys.
Thank you. Bye.